She told me we were in an open relationship now, over breakfast, like she was asking me to pass the salt. Everyone who later heard the story assumed I froze, begged, or lost my dignity. They were wrong. I stayed quiet. And that silence is what destroyed everything she thought she controlled. Before I go on, if stories about betrayal, quiet revenge, and late-life clarity hit close to home for you, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment. It tells the algorithm this story matters, and it helps more people hear it. It was a Tuesday. Not dramatic, not symbolic. Just one of those days that blends into the rest when you're married long enough. I was sitting at the kitchen table, half reading emails on my phone, half listening to the hum of the old refrigerator. My coffee had gone lukewarm in a chipped blue mug I'd owned since before the marriage. Outside, the neighborhood was waking up, sprinklers clicking on, a dog barking 2 houses down. Then Laura walked in. She was calm, too calm. Dressed casually, hair pulled back, no makeup, the version of her that always appeared when she thought she was being reasonable. She poured herself orange juice, leaned against the counter, and said, "I've been doing a lot of thinking." That sentence alone made my chest tighten. "I've decided we're in an open relationship now," she continued. "I'm already seeing someone." No pause, no build-up, no question mark, just fact. I looked up slowly. She wasn't looking at me. She was stirring pulp around in her glass like this was a change to our grocery list. I asked, "What did you just say?" She sighed, annoyed, not nervous. "You heard me. People do this all the time. It's healthy, it's honest." Then she added, almost proudly, "His name is Ryan." That was the moment something in me went completely still. Not angry, not loud, just cold. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I didn't beg for explanations. I stood up, pushed my chair back, and grabbed my keys. She finally looked at me then, confused. "Where are you going?" she asked. "I'm leaving," I said. She laughed. Actually laughed. "You're overreacting. We need to talk about boundaries and schedules. This affects both of us." I stopped at the door, turned around once. "No," I said quietly. "It doesn't." I drove to work and sat in my truck for 20 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, phone buzzing nonstop in the cup holder. Missed calls, texts, voice messages piling up. Suddenly, she wanted conversation. Then a new message came through, a name I knew very well. Megan Carter, Laura's best friend. They'd known each other since college, shared secrets, shared holidays, shared everything. The message said, "She told me what she did. I always thought you deserved better. Dinner tonight. My treat." I stared at the screen longer than I should have. People think betrayal always comes from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the person pouring juice across the counter. And sometimes clarity comes from the one person who finally gets tired of watching you be taken advantage of. I typed back, 7 works. That evening changed the direction of my life, though at the time all I knew was this: I wasn't going to argue, I wasn't going to explain myself, and I wasn't going to play along with a game I never agreed to. While Laura kept calling, I turned my phone face down and walked into the office. Silence, I learned that day, makes people reveal far more than anger ever does. By 7 that evening, the sky had already dimmed into that washed-out blue that makes city lights look harsher than they really are. I parked across the street from Megan's apartment complex and sat there longer than necessary, engine idling, watching people come and go, couples, singles, a normal Tuesday night for everyone except me. Megan came out right on time. Dark jeans, simple jacket, hair pulled back. No performance, no forced cheer. She looked like someone who had already decided to stop pretending. She opened the passenger door and hesitated for half a second before getting in. "Thanks for coming," she said. "I wasn't sure you would." "Why wouldn't I?" I replied, pulling into traffic. She glanced at me, studying my face like she was trying to read damage beneath calm skin. "Most men would be home right now, fighting or drinking." "I don't see the point," I said, and I meant it. We drove in silence for a few minutes. The steakhouse downtown was quiet, the kind of place people our age go when they want privacy more than atmosphere. Low lights, soft clinking of glasses, booths that swallow conversations whole. Once we sat down, Megan didn't waste time. She planned it, she said. The speech, the timing, the way she told you. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She's been rehearsing that conversation for months, Megan continued. She thought you'd be shocked, upset, but compliant. She actually said, "He'll complain for a bit, then he'll adapt." That sentence landed heavier than anything Laura had said that morning. Megan took a breath. And she didn't start with Ryan. I finally looked up. There was someone last year, she said. And before that, another guy. Different excuses. Same pattern. I leaned back, the leather booth creaking under my weight. Scenes I hadn't questioned replayed in my head. Canceled trips, unexplained expenses, sudden privacy around her phone. All those moments I'd brushed off because trusting your spouse is supposed to be normal. She doesn't see it as cheating, Megan added. She sees it as self-expression, growth, and she thinks honesty after the fact makes it acceptable. The waitress came, took our orders, left. I stared at the table, tracing a scratch in the wood with my finger. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. Megan didn't hesitate. "Because you're decent, and she's been using that against you for years." That word, decent, had never sounded so much like an accusation. "She said you wouldn't do anything drastic," Megan went on, "that you're too stable, too predictable." I almost smiled at that. When the food arrived, we ate quietly for a while. I wasn't hungry, but I forced myself to chew, to stay grounded. Megan watched me like she was waiting for something. Anger, maybe. Collapse. Anything dramatic. It didn't come. "What would you do?" I finally asked. She met my eyes. "I'd protect myself. I'd document everything. I'd stop assuming she plays by the same rules you do." That sentence stuck. When we stood up to leave later, Megan touched my arm lightly. "One more thing," she said. "She has full access to your joint finances, and she's impulsive when she feels cornered." I nodded, filed it away. No reaction. Outside, the night air felt sharper, cleaner. As I drove her home, she looked out the window, then said softly, "I always wondered what it would be like if she wasn't in the way." I didn't answer. Some statements don't need immediate responses. When I dropped her off, she smiled. Not flirtatious, not hopeful. Just honest. "Good luck," she said. I watched her walk inside, then sat in my truck again, engine off this time. My phone buzzed with another message from Laura, then another. I didn't read them. I drove around for nearly an hour, thinking, not about revenge, not about arguments, but about something far simpler. Control. Not over her, over myself. When I finally pulled into the driveway, the house was dark. Her car was gone. For the first time that day, I felt something close to calm. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and realized something important. The argument everyone expects after betrayal wasn't coming. Because I wasn't going to fight. I was going to listen, and people always reveal the most when they think they have already won. The house was quiet in a way it had never been before. Not peaceful, just hollow. I set my keys down, loosened my jacket, and stood in the kitchen for a long moment, listening to the faint tick of the wall clock. Laura wasn't home. I didn't need to check her location to know where she was. The absence told me enough. That's when I saw her laptop. It sat open on the counter, screen dimmed but awake, like it had been waiting for me. No password. She used to say married people shouldn't need them. At the time, I thought it was trust. Now I understood it was convenience. For her. I didn't rush. I made myself another cup of coffee and sat down slowly, like this was just another evening. My hands were steady when I touched the mouse. What I found wasn't dramatic. No single explosive message, just patterns, long threads, familiar names appearing far too often. Ryan, yes. Messages going back months, not weeks. Lunch plans during my work hours, hotel confirmations, casual jokes about how gullible I was being about overtime, and then other names, one from last year, one from before that. Each conversation followed the same rhythm. Excitement, secrecy, reassurance that I was safe, jokes about how she'd handle me if I ever found out. I didn't feel sick. I felt embarrassed, not because of them, but because I'd trusted without question. I didn't argue with the screen. I didn't slam the laptop shut. I took screenshots, backed them up, organized them, calm, methodical. The way I do my job. By the time I heard her car pull into the driveway, I was sitting in the living room, reading a book I hadn't turned a page in for 20 minutes. She walked in cautiously, scanning the room like someone entering unfamiliar territory. "You're still up," she said. "Couldn't sleep." She sat across from me, studying my face. "Look, this morning wasn't ideal. I could have handled it better. But at least we're being honest now, right? That's progress." I closed the book and looked at her. "How long have you been seeing Ryan?" I asked. She hesitated. "I told you, a few weeks." "And the others?" I said calmly. Her face drained of color. "I don't know what you're talking about." 4 months of emails," I replied. "Hotel charges, messages about excuses. Want me to keep going?" Silence stretched between us. She opened her mouth, closed it, adjusted her posture. "You went through my private messages," she said finally. "You left your laptop open," I said, "because married people don't need secrets." She stared at me, recalculating. "Okay," she said. "Yes, there were others. That's why I wanted openness, no more lying." I leaned back. "Then why didn't you mention the credit card charges?" She shifted. "I was going to pay that back." "With what?" Her jaw tightened. I stood up, suddenly exhausted. "Laura, what was the end game? Did you actually think this would work?" She tried softening her tone. "We can fix this. Counseling, communication, people get through this." "People get through mistakes," I said. "This wasn't a mistake. This was a system." She didn't respond. I walked upstairs and closed the guest bedroom door behind me. That night I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, she was gone early. Good. I made calls, set appointments, asked questions I should have asked years ago. By afternoon, I sat across from a lawyer who flipped through my neatly organized evidence and nodded. "This is straightforward," he said. "Are you ready to file?" "Yes," I replied. That evening, Laura came home with takeout and an apology ready. She didn't get to finish it. "I filed today," I said. The room went silent. "You're bluffing," she whispered. "You'll be served Monday." Her face hardened. "You can't do this." "I already did." She sat down slowly, anger flickering behind her eyes. "You think this makes you strong?" "No," I said. "This makes me done." She stood abruptly. "I'm staying with Megan." I met her gaze. "No, you're not." That was the first time she looked genuinely afraid, because for the first time, something wasn't going according to her plan, and she could feel it slipping. She didn't leave that night. She stood in the middle of the living room, phone in her hand, realizing every door she assumed was open had quietly closed. Megan wasn't an option. Her sister wasn't answering, and for the first time since I'd known her, Laura had nowhere to perform. Monday morning came with the kind of clarity only final decisions bring. I was pouring coffee when the knock came. Calm, professional, the sound of consequences arriving on schedule. Laura opened the door in a robe, already irritated, until she saw the papers. The color drained from her face as she flipped through them, lips moving silently. "Financial misconduct?" she snapped, turning toward me. "You're accusing me of fraud?" "Using joint funds for affairs qualifies," I said evenly. "My lawyer agrees." Her phone started buzzing immediately. Messages, calls, damage control. I grabbed my bag and headed to work while she stood frozen, clutching the truth in her hands. The fallout didn't take long. By midweek, whispers had reached places she didn't expect. Her yoga studio quietly asked her to take a break. The bookstore cut her hours. People stopped returning her messages. When trust collapses, it doesn't do so politely. Thursday evening, she was waiting for me when I got home. No makeup, no edge, just exhaustion. "I want to talk settlement," she said. "Talk to your attorney." She stood, voice shaking. "Please, I'll end it. I'll change. We can start over." I looked at her for a long moment. You didn't want partnership. You wanted permission. She had no response. The next surprise came Sunday afternoon. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find Ryan standing there, hands shoved into his pockets, looking younger than I expected. "She told me you were separated," he said. "That you agreed." I let the silence stretch. "We were married, living together. That conversation happened over breakfast." His face fell. "She didn't mention the others," I added. "There were others?" "Yes." He left without another word. Monday morning, the papers were finalized. She didn't show up. Her lawyer did. The judge was efficient, fair, final. 3 months later, the house felt lighter. My work improved. I slept. I stopped checking my phone. I got the promotion I'd been circling for years. Megan and I started talking more. Coffee at first, then dinners. No drama, no guessing, just honesty. One evening she asked, "Do you regret how it ended?" "I regret staying silent for too long," I said. "Not the ending." A year later, I ran into Laura at the grocery store. New man, same patterns, tired eyes. She smiled too fast. "How are you?" she asked. "Peaceful," I replied. That was the truth. 2 years after the divorce, I stood in a restaurant waiting for Megan, a ring in my pocket. When she walked in, smiling, I knew something important. Love isn't about being flexible enough to accept betrayal. It's about choosing someone who doesn't ask you to. When she said yes, it wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. And as I looked at her, I realized something I wish I'd understood sooner. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the moment you stop explaining and start winning. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment. Your support keeps these stories coming, and I'll see you in the next one.